Welcome to the podcast, where we teach you how to create marketing that pops. Get ready for refreshing conversations with industry experts, trendsetters, and creative minds that'll leave you bubbling with inspiration. Get ready to turn up the volume on your business. Let's get talking. Perfect. Welcome back to Marketing That Pops. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Michelle.
And today we are joined with our guest, Matt Bertram. He's the head of digital strategy at EWR Digital and CMO at Oil and Gas Global Network. So Matt, welcome to the pod and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you all both so much for having me. Love to reconnect with you, Michelle, and nice to meet you, Olivia. So I work with brands and help them grow. Like that's essentially what I do. I'm doing a lot of kind of technical strategy of getting people out of ditches. So, right, I think that a lot of times people have to accept that they can't do it on their own when they start looking for a consultant or agency. And you have to get to that point of like, I have hit a problem that I cannot solve on my own, and I need additional help. And until someone gets to that point, it's very hard to help somebody, in my opinion. And so I'm working with some big brands that have a lot of budget and they have a big brand behind them. And I think a lot of times when you have a big brand behind you, it can carry you a long ways. And you're not having to run up against the challenge of real change, right? So there's a lot of change in the wind today with AI and how social media is so important. And, they used to just have salespeople and a big brand and they did traditional marketing and it worked, right? And I'm on a lot of cross-functional teams where they still spend a ton of budget on TV, on radio, and they're not even looking at analytics. And they bought a bunch of different companies and the CRMs are not talking, and it's just a big mess. And a lot of people think that these big brands have it all figured out. I think the more nimble, smaller SMBs actually are more in tune with what's going on because they've had to make those changes a lot quicker, right? And so really what I do all day is help solve problems, but I can't help people until they realize they have a problem. And I really don't want to work with people if they don't realize they have a problem. So at OGGN, we help the biggest brands tell stories. And a lot of times that folds into digital strategy and they need a little bit of execution. And so I've been with the agency a long time, EWR Digital, and I'm no longer in the operations of what's going on. But again, I'm coming in problem solving on hard issues and strategy. And I know what the team can deliver. And I know what they're good at, what they could be better at. But that's helpful to know who you're dealing with and what you're dealing with. And I work with a lot of different agencies and consultants. So there's your long-winded answer to what I do every day.
We love that.
Yes.
We're excited
and
because
I have sorry, Olivia. I was just going to say that
go ahead.
I have been following Matt's podcast forever. Probably, I don't know. I was listening to it before you were even on it. It was two other individuals, which I can't remember their names right now. And then I remember when you came in and were changing up some things, and I thought, so anyways, he's very knowledgeable. I'm very impressed with Matt. So happy to have you.
Well, thank you. No, that is one of the, so I was lucky enough and blessed enough to inherit, one of the leading podcasts about SEO and digital marketing. And so I came into that. And since that point, we took a DTC brand and grew it to double figure millions, selling supplements. And the other host started doing that full time with my advice, and he now has a podcast, book, and is doing an online conference, and he had to change his online persona to be more of a nutritionist, right, and a longevity expert, and so he basically gave me the podcast, and I need to probably have him back on as a guest, but he, after 12 years, one of the top running podcasts on SEO and digital marketing, he said, take the reins, take care of it, and he handed that over. And so I do that semi-weekly, and I have a couple other podcasts that I sit in on, oil and gas marketing, and if you just search my name, you can find me. I'm all over the place, so it's hard to know what I'm doing day to day without following my calendar. I'll tell you that.
Same.
Yes.
We're so excited that you're here because we have lots of different guests, but we get excited when we get to talk to marketing individuals because you understand what our language is, and so it's just fun when you get it,
I hear
Yeah,
that.
exactly. And we always say, and I think even some verbiage on our website is, that you need to want to do the marketing, and you have to be ready to do the marketing. And if you're not ready, then it's probably not going to work out, because you need to be engaged with it. You need to want it. And if people don't really know what they want, then sometimes it's just not as successful because they're skeptical or hesitant that it's, and it's just, we really want people that they know they want the marketing. Okay, we can help you. We can help you get it done, right? But it's harder on us as marketers to work with those clients because they, just they're just trying
honestly.
another fix, really,
Yeah, I see that a lot. I talk to a lot of people that will hire me to get a second opinion on their marketing. And they're like, I'm getting these analytical reports and I don't even understand what they mean. Right. Or there's a lot of people that are running paid advertising and the agency might be obfuscating how well the marketing's doing. And lo and behold, bidding on the person's name, with the exact match strategy is converting a lot. And wow, PPC is my biggest channel, conversion channel in. And, they're just bidding on the person's name, harvesting all the clicks you could argue, have gotten organically anyway. Right. And if you understand the data, you got to better understand, what's actually generating that lead, where that attribution is. So actually do a lot of analytics work, because that's the power of digital marketing, is you can see what's going on, you can make changes, and you don't have to rely on those digital strategies. And if something's not working, you can change it, and you can track stuff, and you can see what's happening. But man, like I said, and you've said, like, people got to know that they have a problem, and it's an investment. You cannot just plug a hole by throwing money at it. And we do a lot of storytelling. We're like, who can we work with on creating content on your team? And they're like, no, you can't just do it all yourself, like turnkey. If you're trying to manage someone's brand, right? Like, I know y'all do a lot of brand management. Just like, we're going to outsource like our soul and our heart of our company to an agency that, okay, well, if you're going to do that, you need to embed somebody in-house at our company full time to be able to grab all that, where we got to be working with somebody, right? That is in-house giving us content. Man, that's going to cost a lot more money than, some stock art or some, AI generated art or whatever, right? Like marketing, good marketing, right? And you have to stand out today because there's a lot of noise. Good marketing costs money and is an investment. And a lot of people, especially when you're just talking about lead gen, they're looking at bottom of the funnel conversions. And I would tell you, Google and AdWords get a lot of that credit, right? For last touch attribution. last test attribution. I can't talk today. But is that what really produced the interest? I don't know.
So, Matt, I was telling you that on every episode we have this section where we debunk myths. So, are you ready?
Quiz me.
Okay, let's go. So your myth today is some people think that SEO is just about keywords. What do you have to say to that? Like it's only about keyword stuffing and just having the right keywords. What do you have to say to that?
15 years ago, that might be a large part of the strategy. But a lot has changed. The search engine have got a lot smarter. It's
Yeah.
not just about keywords. There's, I would even say in the last 36 months, actually, even the last, year, there's been more changes than in the whole 15. Okay. The breakthroughs and the exponential changes of it being a moving target are absolutely there. And so to just break it down for you real quickly, categories and tags, if people listen, understand SEO, you're providing like a vocabulary database for the AI to that's what Google is a large language model to understand without using a lot of raw computing power what you're talking about. And that's like, think about it. Like Google's trying to figure out what everybody's saying in the entire world, and it's scraping and indexing everything, which
Right.
is not live. That has gone from a two-dimensional framework to a three-dimensional framework of associations and kind of how everything's associated with everything else. Semantic learning was kind of the first step in that. BERT was a big update that changed like, okay, this is a keyword category, right? This is not just a particular keyword. And like, what are all the branches that come off that? Now we're talking about how is this associated with that? You think about it. Like if you write content or you create content on multiple platforms, you need to use some schema to link it all together. So the search engines don't think that those are all different people with the same name talking about the same thing. Like it's really about associations to have the large language model or the search engines understand what you're talking about. So that keyword also can be used in a different context. It could be used in a different tonality as far as like positive, negative of how you're using it. Like think about all the words that have dual meanings. English is actually one of the hardest languages for anybody to understand when you're learning a language. So a large language model, AI has the same issues. Like Chinese, actually, I worked at the embassy in Beijing and in college. I learned a little bit of Chinese. There's like 800 characters or something like, but everything means one thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's very definitive of what's going on. So it's actually easier to understand what you're talking about, right? Every symbol has its own meaning. And so English, there's just so many variables to that. And think about like if you're talking to a child, right? And here's the thing. There's been recent updates in Google that are making light year jumps on associations. And it's not about tactics anymore. It's about fully answering the question properly as the best answer, right? I mean, that's ultimately what it's about. Are you creating value and answering whatever specific question the better than anybody else? Period, full stop. That's all you need to know. Do that. And then, there's some technical things on the back end. But if it's just about keywords, like, is English just about words? Like, I mean, like you got to provide some real tech context to that for sure.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, sorry, I went kind of deep for anybody if you didn't follow me. Like I was trying to.
That's so true. I was talking to one of my friends about just like the English language and just how there really is a lot of just in our tonality, and our inflection and just so many different things, that it is a hard language to learn. So yeah.
And Google and these search engines have to understand everything that's going on, right? and understand how to rank it based on importance, which and the amount of content and information that's being generated daily is like, I mean, that's why searches or pages are falling off getting indexed. If it's not in the top 100 of the answer, which you can see you have to be at the top of Google to get any kind of traffic. I mean, how many people go 100 pages back, right? And so Google's saying, hey, if it's not in the top 100 of the best answers for this question, we're not even going to get it indexed, and information's just proliferating. So it's creating like a rising bar of the quality of content that you have to do. And so, I mean, that can be a loose association with words, right? So like a 500 word blog used to do okay, and now the average is like a 980 or something like that. Like the water is rising, okay. And if you do not keep growing and improving your marketing, like all the businesses that don't keep their head above water drown. Okay. Because what I'm seeing across the board with big businesses and little businesses, and this is why there's hope. You need to leverage digital marketing, and you can reach more people than at any other time. And the big businesses don't have a stranglehold on it. But what they do have is resources. And once they start aligning those resources, there's competitive advantages that you lose. Okay. Now, the big benefit is the focus is they can't focus on everything, right? And they're focused on like that core keyword, and their strategies are pretty rudimentary. And if you're working on all the long tail key phrases and all the kind of periphery, there's still a lot of opportunity, but they have the resources to keep going at this, right? And there's a bifurcation happening. I'm seeing it too. The national companies in any category are starting to take over the SERPs in the local territories. One of the consultants I work with pretty heavily was the manager of G&B, Google My Business, Google Business Profile. And I have him do a lot of work for clients. He was actually the person that overseed that name change, and I always give him a hard time about that because I can't say it right. But I mean, local is going off in a different direction. Okay. And they're putting more resources into that. And that's just the map. Okay. Now that algorithm looks very similar in organic, but organic's looking a lot different. So you'll see different results in the map. And then in the national search look different. If we're talking SEO, well, guess who? Now the national companies aren't dominating the 3-pack, right? But there are, and well, they're adding ads, like can't call it a 3-pack anymore now, but the national companies are starting to show up in the national searches. And that's because of how the algorithm works and the national reach. And so your tactics have to continue to adapt and change. And you have to be working with somebody that's staying up to date with that. And that's why I think I find podcasting so valuable, because I'm interacting with people that are making those kind of interactions, or doing that kind of work. And so it keeps me informed. I think podcasting and listening to podcasts like y'all's podcast is incredibly important to understand where the tides change and what you need to be doing. And, the entropy of it all is like, it's going to constantly move. And so you can't stay stagnant. Right.
Yeah. So I have a question regarding some websites that I've been seeing. So how are these companies that have beautiful websites and hardly any copy, how are they outranking people when there's no words on the page? Like, is it just in the code that, they have back-end developers that are, putting in the right keywords, or are they just, you don't think they're probably ranking because they don't have the content? Okay.
So we can break this down in a couple categories, and like each instance you're talking about could be specific, right? So I can talk in generalities. I can't talk in specifics. One of the most important things is the core web vitals. Okay. It's almost a pass or a fail. The bigger companies maybe do have better coders and can make sure that there's no errors and make sure everything's in pass. So that's like the first bar of entry is user experience. Like everything's got to load in a second. I mean, everything's got to load in a second. No one will stick around. The number one thing that the search engines look for is like click traffic. Okay. It's, backlinks, rank math, rank brain, it still has its place, but I believe that, for most of the search engines, click traffic and how people are interacting with the site and, things of that nature have more to do with it. Right. The bigger brands, here's what I see. They're just dumping a ton of money in paid. Okay. And they're targeting the right keyword of, whatever they want, right? The core keyword of whatever they want. And maybe there's, I just see tons of money spent, right? And they're driving those people, to the website for that keyword and like similar terms, right? And that's giving Google more understanding of how people are interacting with that site. And it's basing its decision based upon the data that it has, how well it's trusted, right? Trust is a big component of what people are doing and interacting when they go to that site. So if you're slamming a ton of traffic to that site, the organic search algorithm does not know and does not talk to each other. That's bot traffic. It's only measuring the traffic that comes. So this site has a outsized amount of traffic coming to it versus this organic traffic. So one of the strategies that is working really well that we've implemented is a very narrow. So if you think about everything on like, is it a bell curve? I don't know if that's a bell curve, but essentially, like if you plot it out and you say how many, like let's just use, I don't know, like a home services businesses. How many home services businesses are there in a geographic area? I don't know. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, like whatever, right? How many of those businesses are running paid? A small fraction of them. I would say under 10%. Okay. All right. Well, if you're doing good SEO, right? And that's what you're saying, right, Michelle? They're doing good SEO. I'm doing good SEO and I'm not ranking. Well, you're comparing yourself against everybody paid traffic and unpaid traffic. So if you have a very low spend campaign, like I'm even talking like $150 a month. Okay. I'm not talking thousands of dollars, targeting that one core keyword, maybe of what you're ranking for. And you're just supporting the traffic to say, this is the right type of search. This is the right type of person. And I'm running it to that site. You're feeding Google that data to say, and Google also understands people in market and all the data that it doesn't show you of who this person is, but they know it's the right kind of person because you're able to buy that in traffic. And now you're mixing that in with what's going on organically. Okay. And so also on the, let's call it a plot graph or a spectrum graph of, if you run a little bit of paid, you're jumping over the 90%, 95% of people that are all organic. So guess what? Now you've dealt yourself a slight advantage, on math, right? On the chances that your data is going to look better than the organic. And if you've done all the work and you have a better page, it's going to show up better, right? And then you're giving yourself a slight advantage by running that traffic to it. So then you're going to leapfrog, if your SEO is good, to competing against actually the top SEO player people. And so, I think that so I think that that's one thing that's going on, and that's one like possible strategy. And there could be different scenarios based upon what's happening. But I can tell you, guiding principles would be user experience and like what that traffic's doing. Certainly optimizing meta descriptions, getting your click-through rate higher. So a lot of times people have low click-through rates. And if you can continue to optimize those click-through rates, you're getting more people in, and then it's feeding kind of a daisy chain, all the other issues. But that's one of the most common ways. one of the things that we can or cannot talk about is what I'm seeing a lot is people are getting frustrated with SEO in general. And in some of the more competitive industries or big budget industries, like I've seen it in plumbers, I've seen it in mortgage industry, because I think that's tough right now. I've seen it with lawyers, a couple different categories. People are just slinging mud at other people, and they're just trying to take other people down. And so one of the biggest things that we're looking at is, okay, why are we not ranking? Well, let's look in the mirror. Let's look at all the metrics, but also like look at the backlinks that are coming in for you. And that's something that should be part of your overall strategy. But man, many times someone just attached a weight to your foot and is like pulling you down, and you have to disavow some of those things. You have to send some of the positive signals. You're going to have to do some reputation management, some additional PR, some outreach. Like that full strategy is really important. And if someone's basically tagging you with negative SEO, you got to fix that too. Like that could be another reason, right? Like I'm doing everything right, but someone in that space is tagging me or my client with a bunch of negative stuff, and we gotta address that. And if you don't disavow these links, in the beginning, Google will say this is link spam and will basically disavow it for you, and it won't affect you. But if you let it go on, and this is when clients come to us, is after a certain amount of time of it continuing to happen and someone just kind of throwing mud, the weight of that mud gets so heavy, like if we're using this analogy, that it will tip the scales and it'll start to bring you down. And when that happens, what Google's saying is, since you're not telling us that this is not you, we assume it is you, and this is bad. And we are gonna put you in the penalty box for it. So those are some of the more common strategies, but there could be a particular case. But that covers a lot of what I'm seeing currently.
Yeah. And I know so many people come to us and they just want like the one answer, and it's always, well, it depends.
Well, you know, and one of the things you can show them is using the different tools, which none of these tools by these third party are Google or like any kind of thing, but many times their domain authority, it's like a standard deviation. So if they're like like a point whatever, or a below 10 is kind of like you're not even going to rank. Like depending on DA or the different categories of stuff, even on a per page basis, make a huge difference. What is the keyword? How difficult it is there's so many different factors, because the site is not looked at as a whole, like it is as an entity, but it's also looked at independently for different things. So this page may rank, this page may not. How competitive is that keyword versus the competitors? It's a zero-sum game. Not everybody can rank first or second or third or whatever. And so it's balanced against that. And I don't think people put enough credit into doing brand promotion, outreach, PR. It's expensive. It costs a lot of money. You can't see the attribution immediately. Those bigger clients have just naturally been doing that stuff over time. A lot of people are also searching for their name, searching for that. So again, these are some of the other things. There's a lot of reasons why someone might be ranking better. And that's why analytics is so important. And you can typically get to the answer, but it's going to be different for everybody. And it's going to be on a case-by-case basis. And it's going to be on almost like a page-by-page basis. Now, if your site ranks better, it's going to pull up your pages, right? Your page might pull up your site a little bit, but what's weighed more? Like, your site's more. So it like kind of will pull it up. But if your site comes up, it'll pull everything up, right? And where you rank for different core keywords will affect like the long tail key phrases. You'll rank for thousands of terms, and you want to, because, well, that's where the conversions come in. If you look at how people search today, it's longer tail key phrases.
Yeah.
Like, and one of the strategies that's working really well is sort in SEMrush or whatever tool you're using. What is the lowest volume searches, right? With the most keywords. And let's start there, and then let's show progress in those areas versus trying to go after like the main keyword. Like you want to show some kind of progress, and people want to understand it's working. And I would say that the biggest thing that people do, right? You've seen all those images of like people digging for gold and the diamonds or whatever are like right there, and they've like almost gotten there. People give up too soon because they're not confident in their strategy. And that's what I really try to do as a fractional CMO and consultant, is give them confidence through data. Through data, that's the key. This is the right strategy and we are on the right track. And also, if you can give like comparable comps to that, like here's another company in your industry where that's where they should be. Like for anybody listening that uses like QuickBooks, right? Like the advanced QuickBooks can actually tell you in QuickBooks where you're at with costs of goods sold versus your competitors in that industry. So it gives you a benchmark. Like, so, you know, there's a lot of different tools actually out there to do that. But if you're providing benchmarking on how you're doing versus the industry and how the progress you're making and where it is, and you're providing those small wins, then it's like, stay firm to the strategy. We have to do this. What's the end goal? And I think getting into a campaign, I think that a lot of companies just try to get business, or they need business, or like whatever, and they take on clients that are not the right fit. And I would tell anybody that taking on clients that aren't the right fit, no matter what business you're in, is like a losing strategy. You have to keep yourself freed up for when the good clients come to be able to do the work and deliver it, so you don't lose them, right? Because the number one way that, like, it's churn. Okay, churn is the number one thing that you're looking at. And if you have a bunch of bad clients, like, fire them as quickly as you can. Okay, fire them as quickly as you can and free up those resources to do other activities, even if those other activities are business development activities. Because I can tell you, you want to get the right kind of clients. You want to understand your business, right? And you want to understand where you're going. And I've worked with companies in every industry, because the methodology for SEO and marketing is like you're marketing to people, and like it rhymes. It's not the same, but it's similar. And also a lot of strategies over here could be applied over here and vice versa. But what I would tell you is, you got to understand your business. You got to understand where you're going. You got to understand what your ideal client is. And if you don't know those things, you should get advice. Okay. You got to understand what the customer journey is. But then if you have all those things figured out and you're like, I have bad clients, this client is always complaining, this client is whatever, or is unhappy, or this or that, and you're spending a large portion of your time managing expectations or doing that or whatever, like you gotta say that client, we would be better off without that client. And you got to have your business operations in a way that you can say, no, thank you. And what we do a lot is, and what I do a lot is, I'm trying to get as many no's. Like I'm definitely, like, I had a big law firm that just came back. And in the beginning I was like, here's my pricing and like, here's what I'm going to do and all this. And they're like, they weren't sure and whatever. And I was like, go find somebody that's a better fit. Like, I'm not the right fit, whatever. It was like probably a year ago. So I think we're like a year cycle. They're calling me back going like, we want to talk to you. That's something like they gotta believe it. And that's what your job is to do, is to make sure before they select you that you're the right fit. And if you have that down, then you want to get rid of those bad clients, and you should know who they are. And free up those resources of you or your team. If you're delivering a service, if you're delivering a product, there's like people that are just nitpicking. Look at that as hey, this is product improvement. So I always look at the bad clients as like, how do we improve our contracts? How do we, how do we improve our onboarding? How do we improve whatever function it is to, like, those actually bad clients are a blessing in the way that a standard client, you can smooth that process and make it better. So I always try to look at the positive of it, but after that client maybe outlives its resources, I would say, maybe connect them with someone that's a better fit, because that client, personality wise, where they're at in their business or what they need or expertise might be a better match. And I've actually found matching somebody up with somebody else, because I find a lot of times, when I was doing a lot of agency work, they really wanted a consultant. They really wanted like someone that can pick up the phone, do this immediately, like whatever. And when you're running an agency or you're in a marketing program, it's like, hey, here's a dedicated strategy. Like, are you wanting to pivot strategy? No, I just want answers to this or that or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, we can bill you for that time. But it sounds like you want a consultant that you can pick up the phone and will do everything that you want them to do. You don't want an agency. So why don't you step down to have a dedicated or semi-dedicated consultant that is the right fit for that, right? And so I think making sure that they're the right fit and also matching them up with someone they can will come back to you. It'll really come back to you, like doing the right things for people and connecting with the right things. I think it just comes back around. Like there's so many people that I've worked with, left that company, they disappeared, 2 years later, they contact me. Hey, I'm over here. Like it's just amazing if you've been in this business long enough, how it's all interconnected. And you can even see that with these social media graphs, right? Like how everybody's interconnected and who they know and all that. And so I think you're always looking for that win-win-win situation. So.
Mm-hmm. So you talked a little bit about storytelling and like how that all kind of plays into like basically overall strategy and marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about like your process when you're like trying to tell those cool stories?
Yeah. I think it's first off to say, I think people don't understand what storytelling is, or they misrepresent what storytelling is.
I would agree.
I'll give you my definition, right? Like, I'm not saying it's the right definition. I'm just going to say it's my definition is people learn in stories, people connect in stories. And what you're trying to do in a story is get somebody into the story where they can understand what that person's going through. They can look at that story and say, hey, maybe that's me. And then you're taking them on that journey. So all stories have kind of like the hero, right? They have the damsel in distress, right? They have fighting the dragon. They have the twists and turns. I mean, like look at Shrek. Like look at any story. Okay, any successful story has that. So okay, you're the business, you're the knight, right? The client is the damsel in distress. The twists and turns are how you got there. And then slaying the dragons, getting them the transformation that they wanted at the end of it. Right. Like if we're going to break it down, like real simple. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them to, I think the term was like an effigy's journey, or I don't remember what, but you're trying to put them there. You're trying to get them to understand your point of view. And so if you can bring them to see your point of view and then take them on the journey, right? So it's all about hooking them in, getting them to see from your perspective. And then really you got to understand what is the journey you're taking them on and where you're trying to go is really important. And then if you understand that and you can successfully take them on that journey, you can get them to where they want to go, whatever that is. You can look at movies and entertainment. They do this. You can even look at how they promote movies, right? Like everything's scripted, everything's put together, and there's multiple facets and channels to this, but it's all about building up a desire to go on that journey and on that story. And that's what everybody remembers. And we remember in stories, like not facts, right? I don't think facts sell. I think benefits maybe help a little bit more, like because it was trained in classical selling, but people remember the stories. And that's what, when you talk to B&B sales teams, right? Like you want the senior salesperson to, what are the stories that you're using in the calls that work, or the case studies or examples that get the person over the line, or to get them to the next step, or to get over that challenge. That's what you want. You want those stories. And so if you're at a company, like sales and marketing should talk. Okay. Like sales and marketing don't talk. Like if you have any kind of sales process, or even a smaller business, you're the sales process, whatever, like you have to merge that into the marketing. And, you asked me in the kind of like green room pre-interview, whatever, like, how did I get into marketing, like customer journey? So for any of you watching, Build Your Brand Mania, how to transform yourself into an authoritative brand and attract your ideal customers. The first chapter is like my story. Essentially, I started off in sales. I did cold sales. I did direct sales, like phone sales. And digital marketing gave me leverage, right? I was actually in the email spamming kind of world early on, and retargeting world, and paid ads, but it gave me leverage, right, to reach more people. And I think that as things develop, digital marketing and direct to consumer is really big, and direct response marketing is really big, but that's bottom of the funnel. Okay. As you get into more B2B stuff, brand is really important. The story is really important. And even today, like with the trends that you're seeing, like, what are the causes you're supporting? Like, what is the origin story of your business? Like, these things matter. People want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. That's actually the title of one of my other books. But like, like, you gotta, like, it's more complex than push click. Advertising is tough. There's a lot of testing. That's why data is valuable. And so there are certain methodologies that work, but in particular cases, it's on a case-by-case basis of what's going to work for them and where they're at and what they're struggling with. But a lot of times, if you strategically and surgically attack that, you can untangle it one step at a time. And guess what? Like, you got that whole funnel, but 3% improvement here, 5% here, 10% here start to be massive, right? And it improves across the board. I mean, I think the power of marketing and branding is like 1 + 1 is like 11, not 2. Okay. And that's the magic, I think, of marketing, of what you can do. And today, with all the tools you have, you can reach anybody, anywhere, at any time. Now, if you're the receiving end of that, like, hey, you got to make sure that you're not upsetting people and you're not annoying and you're not spamming people. And that's why personalization is important. That's where I think the AI actually helps a lot from a personalization standpoint, right? But you still need to have a good operator to know what you're doing, what you're saying, what good looks like. But I mean, people like need to have hope. Like, you have more tools that in your pocket, right, and in front of you than the biggest businesses have to grow. And we're coming into a fourth turning, if you will, of the internet was massive. Like, it changed everything. I remember when I couldn't even, people were like trying to get your credit card, right? To like just buy something online. Everything was free if you just go to the website and like give them an email address. And, emails used to be, every email used to be looked at, and, okay, we're past that, right? We're going into this next phase. Like, you can see how the search engines are working. You can see with AI, you can see with personalization, you can see with brand building, like storytelling, like where it's going. It's just maturing. It's just evolving. Like, it's bottom line good marketing. Like that's what it is. Like, there's no real answers, but there's answers to specific questions. Yeah. Like, but the bigger strategy is the same, and people are looking for that silver bullet. And maybe, hey, maybe there's a bullet lodged in you. You gotta get it out, right? Or maybe you don't know what you're doing. You're going down a path that's probably not a good path. Like, people are like starting a content strategy and just like posting all over the place because they're trying to get something viral, and they don't understand how the whole funnel works and how it all fits together. Like, strategy is more important than ever. That's I usually come in and I can fix the strategy, and then the execution, if you have like good to great execution, it takes care of itself. But I think it comes down to strategy, is at least what I'm finding, and kind of surgically making those improvements to get you on the right track. But you gotta know where that is. And so we do a lot of workshops, right? Like, and I think that people think for a long time. They know where their traffic's coming from. They know what the right target audience is. They know what the right customer is. I would say that, maybe 65% of the time that's true. I would tell you there's a lot of new insights that you can get from data, that, and also sometimes the business has to change. And you might have, there might be a different segment that's more profitable. And you're like, oh, well, this is the business we've always gotten. So we keep doing this business, but this is the business we really want. And now everything's getting more competitive. The economy's not doing well. Man, how do I get more of that? That would fix things. Well, that's a whole new strategy. That's something that you haven't uncovered yet, right? And so, I think it's encouraging to explore that more, but don't just leap. Like, you need a parachute. You need to know. You need to know what's at the bottom of that canyon, right? Like, so, I don't know. My opinion.
No. I have a couple of fun questions for you. So everyone, marketing is kind of all over the place right now, in the sense of, like, there's some fun trends that have been going on. What have you been seeing that or what brand that you think are just absolute killing it, and you're like, wow, their strategy is really on point? Like, what brands are those for you?
I mean, Liquid Death is just crushing water. Like, you wouldn't believe. I think that crypto brands are going to be on the rise, like, big time. To see the trends of the companies that are doing well, have a Super Bowl strategy, is what I would tell you. Okay. Like, the
That's
companies
true.
that will spend the money on a Super Bowl ad have something that works, have something that they've figured out, and they know that if they can just get eyeballs into the top of that funnel, it's going to work. Okay. And it's hard when you say what brands are doing well. It's like, what category, right? Like, what category is service? What's going on with influencers? What's going on with politics? What's going on with movie stars? Like, there's a lot of things that attract eyeballs and interest that are doing well. And I am seeing a lot of new competitors popping up in different areas. And, the formula that's working is 7-11-4. And I've talked about this before, and I've talked about it throughout the podcast. And, 7 hours of content consumption. Okay. Someone's got to consume 7 hours of your content. They got to see your brand 11 times, and they need to see you on 4 different platforms. And I think that any brands that are fitting their marketing into that metric, and I don't care how it looks, is giving you a really positive result, a multiplier result. And think about how many brands you know of that are doing that. And I would tell you that any brands that are, and look, if we're talking about Budweiser or Red Bull or, bigger, Disney, Hershey, like, whatever, they've gotten to the 7 hours through advertising over time.
Yes.
Okay. Like, actually, a lot of the brands that are doing really well have some kind of nostalgia to when we were younger. Okay.
That's so true.
I was reading this case study recently, and I can't remember the exact brand, but it was like a coffee brand wanted to go into China, and no one drank coffee in China 15 years ago. They only drank tea. And basically the strategy was create a cartoon. Okay. Create a cartoon, then create a candy that's coffee flavored based upon that cartoon. And then in 15 years, sell coffee that reminds people through the candy of that flavor. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So there's 2 things that people buy: nostalgia. So why is anything that's pixelated, like Minecraft, doing well? Because those were the video games of the people that were buying at the time. Okay. Like, the funniest thing in the world. Okay. My kid on spring break, we had spring break last week, and I downloaded on his iPad because of the plane. I don't know if I don't like, I love technology, but there's this, like, love hate for, like, kids, right? But essentially you're getting an iPad on the plane. Okay. And So I downloaded Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh
And
yeah.
the reason they liked Sonic the Hedgehog, Sega, right? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
I grew up playing that. The reason they actually liked that was actually in reverse. They liked that because they said Sonic, this character's in Minecraft. Okay. So there's this
Oh,
actual like
okay.
reversal. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that is where like things go out of trend and come back in trend, like bell bottoms or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Like there's
Yeah.
this yin and yang with stuff that comes around. And if you look at like collectibles and stuff like that, what are the best collectibles? Like a Nintendo went for like 100 grand, like a Nintendo shrink wrapped, whatever,
Yeah.
because people that have the money are now buying the nostalgia back. So it's nostalgia one, okay, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why repetition is important. Like they got to be familiar with your brand, familiarity, but then you got to be novel. Okay, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? That's okay. You got to be a familiar brand, but you got to be doing something novel. Now, if you look at candy brands, okay, because do a lot of stuff with um, product sale. Amazon's huge, but what I would tell you about candy brands, all these line extensions of candies, right? Like if you look at that now, they're testing out different formulations and finding out what the biggest candies are. So the candy that's selling the best right now is Nerd Ropes. That's the
Mm.
number. I think that's like the number one or number two selling candy right now. Like Nerds, they were about to retire that brand. Okay,
Yeah.
they sold that brand to Ferrari. So like Nerd Ropes, okay, is like the number one. Like so they're testing all these different combinations, and you have data now, and you can see what's going on. But Nerds, like everybody knows Nerds, right?
Yeah.
Like so
Right.
so there's these different kind of combinations like that are working well, and so it's novel and it's familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
So, okay, on the flip side, is there any campaigns that you feel like people are just missing the mark?
all the time. I mean,
Well, is
I
there any
mean,
that stick out in
I
your
mean,
head?
I
A
can't
lot
even be
easier to
specific
find
there.
it.
Like almost anything that I see when I log into social media, someone's running a horrible campaign that's targeting a local service from Washington to Houston. Okay.
Mm,
Like, I mean, people just don't have their ad budget set up right. These ad platforms are meant to take your money. You need to have someone that knows what they're doing, setting it up. You might want to have someone getting a second opinion of how it's going. Um,
right.
AI is being leaned into too much. It's pulling from the same data set. So I'm seeing a lot of ads that look very similar. I'm
Yep.
seeing stock images being used. Like I'm not seeing any authenticity, originality with the brands. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and here's the thing. This is not just small companies. This is big companies too. Okay. They just don't know it and they can throw budget around. And they don't miss it. I think it's across the board. The personalization is being missed big time,
Mm-hmm.
and um, making sure that your marketing budget's not being wasted, and you're targeting the right target audience. And a lot of these target audience sets are misleading, or it's hard to understand. Like, I mean, who can raise their hand, right? If we did like 100 marketers and said, everybody raise your hand of somebody that knows all of the Facebook audience in and outs, what they all mean.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many. Okay. Now, what's cool is you can actually use AI to give you better definitions of some of these things, and you can take
Mm-hmm.
manuals. This is something crazy that I just saw. A buddy of mine that's one of the top marketers in the world. Now he only sells his own stuff. I think he has a deal with one of the phone companies where he took leads from like $125 for one of the major phone companies down to $1.25. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And built this whole call center and like good buddy of mine. And he was like, he took AI and analyzed the JFK, all the papers that went out and said, give me a summary on it, you know? And it was super interesting, right? We don't have all the time. It summarized all that. I've actually done that and been using that in that way. Like I haven't expanded with AI in my personal life as much, right? Now I
Yeah.
did get caught.
Uh-oh.
about a year ago. Yeah. Doing an anniversary post.
Oh no.
I was using the AI to help me write
Yes.
and I actually that this was like 2 years ago or like a year and a half ago or something like that. But I like literally got kudos for the longest time because it was like the best post. Like it was
Yeah.
so good, and like I tweaked it and I had it prompted on,
Yeah.
but I got the best post, and she was telling everybody, and
Oh
she was so happy.
no.
And then like somehow, some way, I was posting something about AI, and she like asked me about it, and I was like, yeah. And I lost it all like that day. You know, that's kind of like in Google, right? Like it just,
Yeah.
you know, the algorithm changes, like you lose all the effort. But you know, so I haven't used AI a lot in my personal life. I've used it a lot uh, in business. So my brain kind of looks at that way. I actually on the personal side, I kind of tried to unconnect from social media and get like
I
some
understand that.
space from it. I think it helps with like creativity, and I don't have any alerts on my phone. Like so I you know I look at it. I'm not as much of a consumer. Certainly I am in some cases, news and other things, but yeah, like but AI is such a powerful tool, but people I think lean too much into it. And look, everybody's talking AI is gonna AI my job away, and that's probably true at some point. Okay. But that is not today. And, you know, it can make you wildly more productive. So you know, a lot of the conversations that I'm in about AI are about AI governance. Okay. So a lot of businesses, how do they incorporate it into their business in a way that's trustworthy, and distribute it kind of from the top down, from the executive team, to understand how do we incorporate this and not piecemeal it. And a lot of times, if you have a champion that's pushing AI, if they're not on the executive team, like it's never going to take. And that's like the biggest problem. And so AI governance is a lot of where some of my time is going, as well as helping set that up and establish that, so that productivity gains can be gained across companies. I think it's still really new. I mean, think about it like the internet and Redbox, right? Or
Yeah.
like streaming, like Netflix put Blockbuster out of business, right? And Blockbuster had the chance to buy it, like they didn't adapt, so you have to adapt. But Redbox is still hanging in there, okay? And some people haven't adopted. We're certainly over that adoption curve, but it's still going to be there. And think about AI in that way. And that's where a number of conversations have gone recently, is that like there's a bell curve. We're at the early adopter phase. Like the internet had that bell curve too. You know, it can be there. It's going to be disjointed on who's going to take advantage of it, who's not. The general overall businesses, it's going to take a while. Even the bigger businesses, they got a lot more. It's like a big tanker, right? That has to turn.
Right.
I think the smaller businesses are going to adapt quicker, and they can do well picking up business on the outskirts, and picking up a lot of that and scaling and doing different things. So SEO and digital marketing has always been a moving target, and it will continue to change. We're just in a new phase, and people need to understand the page has turned. Just like if you're doing traditional marketing and you didn't turn the page on the internet and digital marketing, and then like look at all the sub things that have changed in digital marketing, right? From if you're talking about social media, right? There was Live that came out, and Periscope, and all the different platforms, and then there, you know, Shorts, and like, I mean, it continues to evolve, right? And so I remember when AdWords was like, I had a campaign. I'll give you one story. I had a campaign, and this was a healthcare. It was like an IV drip company. They've since franchised out, but it was one of the first IV drip companies that came to me, and we did their branding, and I put together AdWords strategy for them, and it absolutely crushed it. Okay, absolutely crushed it. And then about 5 years later, and this is now after COVID, whatever, like that. I had another client come to me because that client had gone off, franchise, sold it, blah blah blah, and came to me and said, hey, like, we know what you did. We want you to do that for us. I was like, no problem. Let me pop in, okay, let me change some stuff, and got an AdWord campaign up and running for them. Cost per click, it was something like under 30 cents a click on average, like probably like 26 something cents a click. And now it was like $7 a click. Okay.
Yeah.
What is it? The dynamics of that campaign, or the economics of that campaign were completely different. And that campaign, I had to completely scrap it. Okay. That campaign did not work at all anymore. And we had to develop new strategies because of where we are in the progression. Right. And so the biggest thing that I see is businesses are operating based on what they knew at the time when they started the business. That's the number one thing that I'm seeing. That businesses are operating the way they did when they started, and based on their business processes, when we start looking at like their marketing ops and setting up their marketing ops, they're doing whatever they did that worked back then. And I can almost there should almost be like a game show of like, when was this business started? What error, based upon how they're doing things, right? Like, we're operating all on paper, for invoicing or work orders or whatever, right? Like you can just see it. And I think what the biggest thing that businesses are not doing is they're not adapting from a top-down strategy, the whole business. So it starts with the business executives, and it starts with a culture and mentality shift to change what you're doing from the top down. And that's how businesses are going to move. Like when you have that one champion, it's going to be fighting uphill. I mean, we see this a lot with, like you have like a marketing director or, an in-house marketer that's a champion of some tool or something like that. Well, they can't get sales on board with it. They can't get it approved. Like this was a big problem with SEO, like line item, getting SEO, like no one believed in SEO. What is it? Blah, blah, blah. Like getting all that stuff approved has to start at the top level, and they have to understand it. And then it kind of percolates down through the business. And a lot of businesses, their unwillingness to change or think they know what they know is I think what hurts them the most. That's why we rely on data. That's why advanced analytics are so important. That's why predictive analytics are so powerful. I mean, okay, like one myth, I'll give you the best myth in the world. I had a call today about this. Okay. This was a water treatment company. They sell like osmosis machines, all this kind of stuff, like a whole home and business and wide range of stuff. Right. And man, he's like, every time I talk about something, my phone hears me, and then it shows me ads for that, right? Everybody believes that, right? I am not saying that doesn't happen. I'm not saying there aren't data brokers of apps that allow access to the microphone. Certainly you can go in and look to the microphone, and certainly like Facebook, like I talks to text, so my phone can hear me, like legit can hear me, but you can go look at that, like in iPhone in particular, you can see what apps are listening to you.
Yeah.
And voice search is really important, and they are incorporating that. And there's options of like, can you listen to, or do you know my location all the time? Or when I'm using the app, like you need to look at all that stuff, and like, it can hear you. And like, there was some really bad stuff about TikTok, like having TikTok and what TikTok could do. You got to look at the terms of use. So I'm not saying that apps can't, but in general, these major platforms don't give you an option to say, if someone talked about this, show them an ad for that. Right? They don't give you that option, but everybody thinks that you can do that. Right. Well, what that comes down to is predictive analytics. You can see how close, like if you go to a conference, right, and someone's searching a bunch of things on their phone, and you talk to that person and you're with that person for X amount of time, you're probably going to see that. Or you're, looking at something and you're talking about a vacation or hunting or camping or whatever. And then you go around other people around that, and they see that, like, those ads cross-pollinate. Also, if you're jumping on Wi-Fi networks, okay, if you're jumping on Wi-Fi networks, you can target across Wi-Fi networks, and you can capture from someone's desktop to someone's phone, and there's issues with cross-pollination on Wi-Fi networks. So there's a lot of ways that this data gets cross-pollinated. But if people are in market for something, right, or potentially talking about something or doing searches, that might be an indicator they're in market. And anybody you have association with or connected with or liked on Facebook or all these things, that's what pattern recognition is doing. That's what predictive analytics is doing. That's what these large language models on a large part are doing. They're identifying patterns, and they're predicting, and they're future predicting out what might happen, right? And they're trying to capture that. And so that's why I think people are listening to them, right? And I think it's a lot about, you've talked to somebody, you've logged on to their Facebook, right? Let's just say you've logged onto their Facebook, or you've looked at their LinkedIn profile. Everything that person's done for like the last 30 days, let's just say, is going to show up in your feed. Something associated with what they're doing is going to be like, if you have some kind of other association, because all the searches today are personalized. They're all personalized. So your search is going to be different. And so tracking analytics is becoming a little bit more difficult, because like if you're just trying to track keywords, right? You can now track in specific areas. You can, like, there's a bunch of stuff with the data centers. There's a bunch of stuff that you can do, but ultimately their search. And if you think about that, like just think about Pandora, okay, or something like that. I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it. You're optimizing your algorithm, you're optimizing your feed. Like if you look at somebody else's social media feed on whatever platform that you love, look at their feed, you will not like anything or very few things on their video feed, but you'll love everything on yours. And that's for everybody. Now, unless you and that person share videos back and forth and love all the same things, your feed's not going to look the same. And that there's just so many different factors. Like, I mean, all these platforms are changing these algorithms like 100 times a month. Like, I mean, there's just so many little tweaks. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's a lot. And they're continually optimizing and changing things and rolling stuff back and putting them forward. But they're getting better and better at predicting. Whatever that movie was with Tom Cruise or whatever, like where they predict if you're going to commit a crime or whatever that is. I forget, is it Minority Report or something like that? But you know, the future is coming, and yes, they can listen to your phone, but I don't think as a whole that's what's happening in marketing. I think it's more predictive marketing and analytics than anything else. So
awesome. Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, what was one piece of advice that you would give as our like final question? But I feel like you kind of answered that in just this last little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 7-11-4 rule, I would go back to that and encourage people to kind of follow that framework. And I would just say, social media is really important. People need to know, like, and trust you. They need to kind of get to know you in a one-to-many kind of format. And there's a lot of different ways to do that, but you kind of got to be, you got to be where your target audience is, and that changes for everyone, right? So if you're B2C, it could be, Facebook, Instagram. If you're B2B, it could be LinkedIn, it could be Reddit, it could be, it could be a lot of things. And so your marketing strategy has to be configured based on certain methodologies, and it has to be executed at a certain level of competence, but it's got to be configured and personalized to you and for who you're going after. And you can definitely do that yourself. All the information's out there. There's books, there's podcasts, there's webinars, there's whatever, but I think a lot of people don't have time and they want to kind of shortcut it. And I think that comes down to strategy. And again, that's where a bigger part of my job is coming. I was doing a lot of execution. I was, doing a lot at the agency. I had worked up from PPC to SEO manager, to enterprise sales to strategy, over the number of years. Strategy, analytics, data, research is, I think, where it all starts. So
awesome. And Matt, can you remind everybody where they can find you on the internet?
MatthewBertram.com is a new site I just launched for, so Matthew Bertram, Matthew like in the Bible, Bert Ram, is like the boat, is how you can find me. Certainly I am across all the platforms on LinkedIn. And if you just search my name, I have some podcasts I write for a number of different publications. But yeah, like just search my name and whatever you're looking for. And some content will probably come up in that area, and hopefully we can solve your problem. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for being on the pod. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure that you like and subscribe and give us a big thumbs up. But thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Bye.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening with us today. Stay tuned for the latest in web marketing and design from ThrivePop. Want to be a pop star? Head over to thrivepop.com/podcast to join our mailing list for episode notifications, sneak peeks, listener feedback, and more.